We are so lucky to be joined by the Wood Brothers today. We love this band. A lot of people were geeking out during sound check, so everybody, you got a really good performance to look forward to. Wood Brothers playing tonight at the Truman. They have a new album that is available wherever you find your digital music, live at the Fillmore, and a new studio album, Kingdom in My Mind, coming out January 24th. Thanks so much for coming in. And
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it a great deal. You know, I hope it's okay. I'd like to go back to the beginning, maybe even before you were born. Your dad was so instrumental in giving you all sort of a musical background that you thought maybe other people had too, but not really the case.
Yeah, certainly something we took for granted as kids, but our dad was a real serious folky. He was also an educator, molecular biology professor, but in his younger days, he was a full-time folk musician and knows hundreds of folk songs, and used to play him around the house when we were kids, and we just thought everybody's dad did that. We didn't realize that it would sort of sink in a little bit, and he had a lot of cool records, and all of that was very influential.
He also played a little bit with Joan Baez in her very early days.
He did, yeah. He was in that sort of Cambridge folk scene of the late '50s. Had a radio show at Harvard, he almost went that direction.
So your dad was all about the music, but your mom was into poetry.
Correct. Our mom, who's no longer with us, but she was a published poet and wrote some really cool stuff. That was another thing that we took for granted, certainly until way beyond growing up.
So you guys are, Oliver, you're 4 years older than Chris, but you were close enough that for a couple of years there, you actually had a garage band in the garage.
Kinda. Yeah. I mean, Oliver, being a little older, was experimenting with playing. He actually started playing bass for a minute, and then got tired of that and gave it to me, and took up the guitar. He mastered that and moved on to guitar.
Right.
But yeah, we would mess around, and we had one of those old 4-track cassette machines, and would make little compositions and things like that before he left the house.
So do any of those cassettes survive?
Hope not.
Holding them for the box set.
That's a good question, actually. There might be something laying around.
It would be fun at a family get-together, if
Yeah, it'd be
nothing
good
else.
blackmail material.
Pull those out and listen to them. So, it's funny, your dad's vinyl also played a part. And my understanding is it was pretty broad. Lots of different kinds of music in there. And so out of that, Oliver, you gravitated more towards the blues and Chris towards jazz. Is that fair?
I mean, for a while, I guess you could say that in general. Jono here, his dad was also, and still is, a musician, a great drummer, played with Bob Dylan, played on Schoolhouse Rock, which is another cool fact, seeing all this PBS and Sesame Street stuff around.
Sang it, too.
And sang it, too. So it's like, all of that had made a big impression.
Yeah. And just to sort of wrap up the whole family thing, it must have been nice. You got to pull your dad up on stage and perform with him not too terribly long ago.
Yeah, that was pretty special. We should have been doing that all along.
Yeah, we'd love to hear some music if we can.
All right, well we're gonna start out with a little bit of new music that's real brand new, actually. A song called "Little Bit Sweet." Every time I go back home, brush the leaves off the stone. From the grave I see up the hill, same old tree stand there still. It's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit bitter. In my old bed I fall asleep and the spirits visit me. I wake up and I'm all alone, stuck inside my skin and bone. It's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit bitter. Bittersweet, that's the way love is made to be. Hello, my little boy's hand, feel him growing up so fast. And my father holds on to mine, feel him shaking hands with time. It's a little bit sweet, it's a little bit bitter. Bittersweet, that's the way love is made. Bittersweet, that's the way love is made to be. I look my lover straight in the eye, stops the clock, she looks in mine. Precious moment, I'm holding on, then she blinks, the moment's gone. Then she blinks, the moment's gone. Bittersweet, that's the way love is made. Bittersweet, that's the way love is made. Bittersweet, that's the way love is made to be.
You know, yeah, absolutely. That was fabulous. You know, I think the best part of Christmas is anticipation. You know, it's like the anticipation of getting there with
Yeah.
family and all that. That's the best part.
Yeah.
You've got a new album coming out called Kingdom in My Mind, January 24th. And all I've had is the one song, Alabaster, and a few song names. And that was one of them, Little Bit Sweet. And that is now one of my favorite songs. I loved that.
Awesome.
That
With one
was
listen. That's
fabulous.
good.
That was so good.
Well, we might have just peaked then.
Yeah, that was great. So am I wrong in guessing, pulling from my list of like song titles, that Little Bit Broken is a companion piece or a bookend?
Sure. Yep. Yep. There's Little Blue, there's Little Bit Broken, and there's Little Bit Sweet.
So we just could have gone with Little for the album title.
Totally. If we thought about it. Yeah.
But actually, Kingdom in My Mind does have meaning, and it sort of, my sense of it is that it rose to the top after the collection of songs came together. Is that fair?
Yeah, every time we write a record, we don't really have preconceived notions about the theme of it, but they always surface by the time we're done, and we realize there's a connection and kind of a theme running through all the material.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Kingdom in My Mind, I mean, it's a line from one of the songs, but it sort of reflects... all the songs are talking about stuff that goes on in our minds and how we live probably most of our lives in our minds and how we deal with that.
Yeah. You know, I think that now we've got one song out of the way, maybe we should address what it is that Jono is playing. We know that it is, in fact, a real...
Why do you feel like you need to address this?
We know, in fact, that it's a real instrument because it has its own website.
That's right.
And one of the features of the
Which
website...
makes things real.
As we know.
I was just, sorry, it goes without saying.
And the website does offer multiple pronunciations for the name of the instrument. But I'll let you carry that.
Let's go with sitar today.
Okay. And it is a cheap guitar that's been modified to essentially be a drum kit.
It can hear you. Yes, it's it's a drum kit now. That fits in the overhead of a plane. That's pretty much the idea. And we can all play around one mic, and it blends acoustically nice with the acoustic bass and guitar. It's not super loud and annoying like the drums I usually play.
Well, it's a lovely thing. Yeah. We appreciate you playing it for us today.
Thank you.
So, back to the music thing. Chris, you were, of course, in Martin Medeski and Wood, and then Oliver, you played with Tinsley Ellis for a while, and then formed King Johnson, which was essentially the name represents that this band was the love child of Freddie King and Robert Johnson.
Yeah, actually, all the Kings and all the Johnsons, because there's a lot of them in blues. So if you're a nerdy white blues kid, you think of Robert Johnson and Tommy Johnson and Lonnie Johnson and B.B. King and Albert King and Freddie King and Little Freddie King, and so there's lots of them.
So then the Wood Brothers have been described as the love child of Charles Mingus and Robert Johnson.
Well, that was like, the way people have fantasy football teams. That was just my idea of, like a what if. What if that happens? What kind of music would they come up with? So that was kind of, that was, because I was coming from Medeski, Martin, and Wood, this kind of avant jazz groove trio, New York City, and Oliver's band was from the Kings and the Johnsons, and how do you mix those two things? And so that was that was my thought experiment.
Well, and it also kind of sidesteps that whole genre thing, which I think you all hate.
Yes. Exactly.
Chris, there's a quote that you've used from one of your friends about genre.
Oh, yeah, you're probably talking about the hardening of the categories promotes art disease.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. The funny thing is that you guys had these two separate paths, and you're both working so hard that you didn't have as much of a connection as maybe you ultimately realize now you should have.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes families in general and kids in general need to go off and find their own paths and grow up and go through those hard knocks and put in your 10,000 hours and all that stuff. And I think Chris and I were lucky that we did that as opposed to starting a band right out of high school or something. We feel like those were good paths for us and made for a better relationship now and a better musical relationship as well, just a more creative one.
So in the early aughts, you ended up having a gig where you were both on the same bill. And Oliver, you sat in with Martin Medeski and Wood. And
yeah.
Was it surprising to the two of you how it went?
Yeah, in a good way. It was creepy almost. How familiar. For me, like watching Oliver play and him just fitting in with Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and all his musical gestures seemed like I don't know how to describe it, but familiar. Like something's like, oh, I would do that, or I'd recognize something there. There's a connection already.
So then, family get-togethers, you found yourself back in the garage.
Yeah, that one get-together really made us think about, hey, this is really fun. This is a good way to reconnect because not only had we not played together, but we'd been living 1,000 miles apart and not very close as brothers. So it was music was a great way to get us back together, and it was something that we weren't even thinking about a family enterprise at the time. We were just thinking, hey, we both love music. We both got pretty good at it. Let's see what kind of stew we can make,
Originally, it was, like a side project.
Exactly.
And then it just started growing. Was there a point where you kind of knew it was taking over?
I don't know. I don't. That word "side project." I guess I take everything too seriously, but
It's right up there with genre.
I was like, I meant so much right from the beginning. I'm like, no, this is something we're doing. I mean, we got to start from the beginning, and we got to start small, but we worked hard at it and built it, and it's been a long, slow journey to the middle. That's what we call it, our slow rise to the middle. Like, nothing happens fast in the Wood Brothers, and we take our time. So. And I was touring full time with the Medeski Martin Wood, and
Right.
it was a lot to build up the Wood Brothers and maintain that for a while, and it was this long, slow crossfade of the two bands exchanging, the main role in my life.
Yeah.
You know,
Chris Oliver and Jono are here today. The Wood Brothers are playing tonight at the Truman. New album, Kingdom in My Mind, out January 24th. We'd love another song if we could.
All right. So the first single here is called Alabaster. Behind the wheel of a yellow cab on the outskirts of Birmingham, he dreams of a traffic jam in Manhattan. Below the city in a subway car, she feels just like a shooting star. Never thought she could get so far from her old man. The last phone booth in New York City, ringing all day, calling somebody home. She doesn't answer, she walks faster. She won't be going back to Alabaster. She won't be going back. She won't be going back to Alabaster. 1,000 miles from home, she still feels it. Scrape of his chin and bruise on her spirit. Home is calling, but she won't get near it ever again. Steps on the gas, tries to harness the anger. Last thing you do is try to understand her. Stuck in time, he's a fly in the amber that never transcends. The last phone booth in New York City, ringing all day, calling somebody home. She doesn't answer, she walks faster. She won't be going back to Alabaster. She won't be going back. She won't be going back to Alabaster. Time passes, distance grows wider. A dark future is brighter and brighter. She's got a new heart beating inside her, and she's her own master. She won't be going back. She's her own master. She won't be going back. She's her own master. Last phone booth in New York City, ringing all day, calling somebody home. She doesn't answer, she walks faster. Last phone booth in New York City, she won't be going back, calling somebody home. She doesn't answer, she walks faster. Won't be going back, yeah. She won't be going back. She won't be going back to Alabaster. She won't be going back. She won't be going back to Alabaster. Yeah, she won't be going back. won't be going back to Alabaster.
The Wood Brothers live in the Bridge Studios. That is Alabaster. That's a song you've heard on the Bridge already from the new album Kingdom in My Mind, which comes out January 24th. And this is a song that's obviously inspired by the times that we live in. After the song is done, it seemed natural for you to partner with an organization that's just down the street from you in Nashville called Thistle Farms.
Thistle Farms, yeah.
And so, like, when you go to the show tonight, $1 from your ticket will go to Thistle Farms.
Yep, $1 from each ticket for the whole year is going to go to Thistle Farms, which is a really cool. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but it's a really cool organization that's started in Nashville to get women who are victims of sex trafficking and prostitution and drug addiction, and people who just need a boost and just getting them off the streets, getting them housing, getting them jobs, training, something that's really been effective and has now become more of a national phenomenon. So we're excited to get behind that and raise some awareness about it.
It's very cool.
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I want to talk a little bit about the record. You know, some of the early Wood Brothers records were part of that, major label machine where, you go in and you record for a couple weeks, and then you guys, after you put out a few with the majors, you went independent, and you would go around to different studios and record a song here, a song there. But now with this one, you have your own studio.
That's right, yeah. It's been a long learning process. I mean, like you said, we started off in Blue Note, and it was the tail end of those days where, record companies seemed like the only way, the only option, and being funded by a record company. And but as we built our name a little bit, and as the record business went down the toilet, we had to, like many artists, we had to be creative about the way we made records. And I think we've been together long enough now, and Jono's been in the group so many years, and we have such a rapport together, and we've gotten good at self-producing ourselves and have come up with our own process of making records that are maybe different than the usual, write 20 songs and record them all at once and be overwhelmed and burnt out. And instead, we try to do it little by little, the way like you do it if you actually wanted to enjoy the process, like write a song, record it, put it away, write another one, record that, That's how you stay sane in the process. And for us to self-produce, we have to get away from the material. So we might work hard on something, and then we just forget about it for a couple months. Go on tour, write another song, but being in our own studio now allowed us to really experiment with that and just do a lot of improvising and starting with that, starting with just the playing and the way we play together. Because we've been together long enough now that we have like a nice chemistry, the way we improvise together, even if there's no song. So we started to that to make sure that was featured on this record.
And so much of your songwriting seems to start off with just improvisational jams. But when you built this studio, you went in and you started jamming, but it was not with an intention of making a record. It was just trying to work the bugs out, take the studio for a test drive.
Yeah, and the luxury is to be able to record that in a high-quality way, like a professional recording of just experiments. And so that's kind of an interesting concept, because you start to capture things that you would not ordinarily capture if you were just trying to play a song. Like if you're just improvising, anything goes, and you just let your subconscious react to the other players. And so I think we felt excited because we captured a bunch of that stuff that we never would have played if we were like, this is a song we're playing right now. And so some of that magic is captured, and hopefully it'll translate on the record to other people, but to us it's like, that was some of the coolest stuff we ever did because we didn't care,
Yeah. So the improvisation that you were doing in the studio, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you went through a process of sort of cherry picking the best parts from different jams and figuring out
Exactly.
Okay, like what represents a verse, what's a chorus, what's a bridge, what's a solo.
Yes, absolutely.
So did you actually like physically mesh those things? Did you like create these songs by editing, or?
A lot of the songs were created by editing. They were, in some ways, the most organic music that we ever made. And they are also very edited, because we might have played a 20-minute amazing jam that we thought was amazing. And, and then Chris would take it home and chop it up into bits, which you can do quite easily these days on your computer if you want. Even though we recorded it to a tape machine, we dumped it, old-fashioned way,
Right.
and then we dumped it. So anyway, a lot of the songs on the album have those elements, and they are often cut up. So Chris had to pick the best 4 or 5 minutes of a 20-minute jam, and it was really fun to make forms out of that, and then to write songs on top.
So you have these sort of collages of improvisational moments.
Yes.
But then there's the whole word thing.
There's the word thing, and then there's things that create unity, like words, and like Jono would overdub the sitar, or he would overdub an amazing piano part. We can always add things, and we can add singing and things. But the foundation of it is this really raw, improvised stuff, and that's what was exciting about it.
I think the thing people don't realize is, sometimes you can come up, you can use a certain composition, whether it's one of our jams, whether it's an old country song, to create lyrics. Like, certain music can inspire all these lyrics to come out. But there's no reason that the lyrics that you create that way have to be married to that music. You can take those and just put them over anything you want that seems right. So that's where the real fun happens, is you mixing and matching lyric ideas with different, in our case, these different improvisational jams. Like, what about this one? How does it work over this one? Until you find a match. And then there's the synergy there, and then it finishes itself that way,
And both of you keep lyrical ideas in notebooks or on your phone, so you can go
voice
for
memos and anything goes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating process. I'm sure it feels like natural to you all.
Well, it's fun.
Well,
yeah, it's fun.
Different.
It's different.
Way different.
Yeah, and there's so many ways you can do it. Sometimes you write some lyrics that you're in love with, and you hunt for music, and sometimes it's the other way around. And so it really varies, Like the song Alabaster, we had this great music, and then the lyrics were an afterthought. They weren't even related, and then they ended up going perfectly together,
Right.
And it's cool because in this way we ended up with stuff we would never play. Mm-hmm. Had we brought in this song and had lyrics, we would not. There's tons of stuff in there like, I would never play that under the song that's going on. But it's really cool. It just wouldn't be your first instinct to do that, because there's like, Oliver might be taking a guitar solo in our jam, but the lyrics are going on over it. And you just wouldn't think to do that. Or you're playing something really busy, and you're like, I would never play that under the vocal, but it really works,
It forced us to create things that we would never create. It's like people have those poets, the magnets on the refrigerator, and they just scramble them up, and they're like, whoa, and they come up with a word combination they would have never thought of if they had done it in a, more rational, cerebral kind of process.
So my sense of it is that after you had some of these songs that you'd constructed musically, you divvied them up to at least do the initial songwriting over the top.
Yeah, we kind of we just had day one, jam B, or something like that. You take that one and mess with that one. I mean, we all listened to everything, and we all sort of had ideas and tossed things back and forth. So it's just a hodgepodge.
Okay, one more.
We just like to say that word as much as possible.
One more little question, because I'm just such a total fanboy about Tom Robbins. He inspired a song on the new record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a good example of. I just read his book, Jitterbug Perfume. I just loved and couldn't stop thinking about. And then I was on some long drive in upstate New York, and I was listening to John Prine's latest record. And the music that he often has, it's just the kind of music that it's just easy to start singing stuff over. And so I just read this book, and I'm listening to the John Prine record, and then I just start making up these lines that reference the book. And before I knew it, I had a whole set of lyrics. And then I just searched through our improvisations and I found a match where, oh, it works over this. It was basically like I wrote a country song and then ditched the country music and put it over something kind of weirder and unexpected.
Yeah, I love you guys. I love your process, and I can't wait for the new record. The new record is called Kingdom in My Mind. It's out January 24th. They also have a digital release live at the Fillmore that you can get right now, and it may have physical after the top of the year as well.
Correct.
So keep checking, We'd love one more song if we could.
All right, well, we're going to finish with an old one of ours called One More Day.
Well, I seen you in a sadness. I seen you when you'd hope to die. I heard you say, well, it's raining all over the world. Well, what did you tell me? What did you say? Just when your faith has gone, give it one more day. And I seen you with your hair low, face down on the ground. I heard you say, well, you're lost and you couldn't be found. Yeah, but what did you tell me? What did you say? Yeah, just when your faith has gone, give it one more day. And next thing you're shining right back at the sun, blowing right back at the wind, rolling right back at the ocean, and nothing's gonna do you in. Give it one more day. One more day. Yeah, just when your faith is gone, give it one more day. I seen you when your soul shines. I seen you when your heart sings. I heard you say, well, the world don't owe you a thing. And what did you tell me? And what did you say? Yeah, just when your faith has gone, give it one more day. Just when your faith is gone, give it one more day.
That was just spectacular. The Wood Brothers live in the Bridge Studios today. Chris and Oliver, along with John O. Ricks. And they are playing tonight at the Truman, the new album, Kingdom in My Mind, January 24th. You know, you're one of those bands. You can hear about 3 seconds and know, yeah, that's the Wood Brothers. Wholly original. We so appreciate your time coming in and sharing your music with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's just quite lovely. The Wood Brothers today live on the Bridge. Yay.